Hello everybody, I'm Elise from the blog LesPetitesSaintCrochet.com, and today I am so excited to be talking about stranded knitting, what it is, how to do it, but also I have the free color work chart here on my blog in case you are interested. I'm going to leave all of the links for everything in the description box below, but you're going to want to stay tuned, especially for next week, because I'm going to be sharing how you can design your own color work charts. So hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to my channel, and there's that little bell that will give you notifications for when I put out a new video, and you're gonna want to stay tuned, especially to next week. Well, this week too, because we're gonna talk all about stranded knitting. It's the most fun. You've probably heard the term before: Fair Isle, Norwegian, Icelandic, color work. There's lots of different names for stranded knitting, but I just can't wait to get started. Learning to read a color work chart is the first step to being able to knit Fair Isle in stranded knitting patterns. So you'll notice that it's a little grid. It looks like little squares, but they're actually rectangles because knit stitches are actually rectangles. They're not squares. For this pattern, this bunny rabbit is from Little Cotton Rabbits, and this is the seasonal dresses pattern. I've actually used one of the adaptations that is from Susie Marie Knits, but the color work chart is my very own design, and I'm sharing that on the blog, and you'll actually see that here. What we do is, this is knit flat. This is not knit in the round. So all of the odd numbered rows are knit rows. All of the even number rows are purl rows. So what you will notice is that on the right hand side and going up vertically, that is your row number. So you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 all the way up to 26. Then the numbers that go horizontal along the bottom is your stitch count. You're going to notice that there are 20 stitches in this color work chart. Here is the tricky part. This is a repeat. That just means that once you get to 20, you start back over again at stitch number 1. Doesn't matter which row you are on, you're going to repeat the pattern. Because we cast on 100 stitches for this chart, you're going to repeat that entire color work chart 5 times each. The biggest thing to remember is that your odd rows are your knit rows, which is the front part of your work. The even rows are your purl side, which is the back part of your work, and that is where you carry your floats. Now that you know how to read a color work chart, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with this simple strand knitting right here. We're going to be using 2 different colors. I've got this beautiful greenish color and a light gray. We're going to just be alternating these 2 colors. This is all knit stitches. Now I've come up with a couple of rhymes to help us, and so I'm going to help you by letting you know that this green color I'm calling the old color, and that's just because we're using it right now. I'm going to knit these 3 just like we normally would. Knit these 3. By the way, I'm an English knitter. This is all knit flat. I mentioned that before, but I just want to make everybody aware of that. And I'm also, by an English knitter, that means I throw. It's different if you're a continental knitter. Good for you. I cannot seem to master that technique at this point. Maybe someday. But this is how I do it. We are changing our color now, and I'm going to be adding this. This isn't attached at this point. So I'm going to, this is our new color. So 1 and 2. This is the new color. So the rhyme goes, drop the new color, pick up the old, bring it on bottom, it ain't no problem, okay? So what we're doing is we're taking this green color and I'm going to knit, and I'm bringing this yarn all the way across these 2 stitches right here. This is called a float. The float is actually this green strand that is across the bottom. And what we want to make sure is that that tension is not too tight, because if I were to pull this really, really tight, it starts to pucker. So we don't want to do that. And so let my tension out just a little bit here so that we don't end up with that issue. So looser is better when it comes to stranded knitting. So now we need to pick up the gray yarn, and that is our new yarn. So the new yarn rhyme goes, drop the old color, pick up the new, bring it on top, that's how we do. So we're going across, and we don't have to worry too much about that tension because we only went across one stitch here. Now we're back to green, drop the new color, pick up the old, bring it on bottom, it ain't no problem. So now this yarn is going to stay on top, this one is going underneath. And so now we know that the old yarn goes underneath, the new yarn goes on top. So just remember that. So now we have two grays. Drop the old color, pick up the new, bring it on top. That's how we do. 1 and 2. Drop the new color, pick up the old, bring it on bottom. It ain't no problem. So now we're bottom. This yarn is still on top. We bring it across our 2 stitches here. We keep that tension loose and make sure we can spread our stitches out to really make sure it's got plenty of room back there. 1, 2, and 3. Drop the old color, pick up the new, bring it on top. That's how we do. Drop the new color, pick up the old, bring it on bottom. It ain't no problem. So you just keep working all the way across like this. It's our gray. This is our top color. Now we have green, and it is our bottom color. So we just follow our chart. We just work all the way across, and I will meet you back to do the purl side, which is the exact same. We just purl it. Now that we have finished that knit row, we are going to go ahead and start our purl side. This is where all the floats are. This is what makes Fair Isle and stranded knitting so warm, because you have all these floats, which doubles the thickness of the garment, and it just makes it so nice and cozy and warm. So what we're going to go ahead and do is make sure that your yarns are not tangled at all. If they got tangled in the last round, just make sure everything's nice and untangled and nice and neat. It can be hard when you have all these tails everywhere. So what we're going to do is, for this row, we're actually starting with the green. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring this up underneath my work. That way it catches this side and it will make it easier to work with. Okay, so I'm starting here and I have 2 green. And I want to make sure I'm watching that tension again, so that it's not pulling too much. 1, 2, and then I have 3 gray. Now, on this side, we started with the green, so this is our old color. So we drop the old color, pick up the new, bring it on top. That's how we do. So we have 3 gray now. 1, 2, 3. Now this is our new color. Drop the new color, pick up the old, bring it on bottom. It ain't no problem. So now our green yarn is going to be our bottom yarn. Our gray is going to be our top. So we have 3 green. 1, 2, 3. We pick up the gray for 1. And then we pick up our green, which is our bottom, and we do that 3 times. 1, 2, 3, and then we have 3 gray, which is our top color now. So you just keep going and just watch that tension, and you can pull your stitches apart so that you can really make sure that float is nice and loose. And you just finish all the way to the end. I'm going to show you guys how to catch your floats. Now, for this actual section, you don't need to catch your floats, but for sections like this where there's lots of white and then there's a little bit of black and lots of white, you do need to catch your floats in those areas. And why you do this is because you don't want these floats getting so long across here that they're really, really long. Because say a human being was actually going to wear this sweater and they put it on and your finger gets caught in a float and it could snag it. So it just keeps it neater. It keeps it all nice and neat here in the back, and it just makes it a more wearable garment. Even though this is only a bunny rabbit that is going to be wearing this dress, I still do catch my floats because it's just a good practice and it's the way you're supposed to do it. This is the exact same thing that we're doing. This is my old color, the gray. If I was actually going to be stitching across more than 4 stitches, I would catch my floats. But for this demonstration, I'm going to catch my floats after 2 stitches. So I'm going to knit 1 and 2. So what you do is you actually just twist your yarns. Okay, so I'm going to take my black, pull it over the gray. Now it's caught here. And so you'll actually see when I come here, 1 and 2, you're going to actually see that the yarn is caught. I've made this tiny little float right here. And then this is when I actually will use this black right here. And I'll show you again how to do this. Now, when you start catching your floats, your yarn is going to get a little bit tangled up. You can do other techniques, and I really recommend the Vogue Knitting book. It gives you all the different techniques for how to properly keep your yarn from getting really tangled up, but this isn't that bad. For me anyway, I don't really mind. It doesn't bother me that much. I just untangle it after every row. So I'm going to twist, which just means I'm going to take the black on top of the gray, pull the gray up, and now it's caught. And then I just keep knitting normally. So I hope that makes sense. It just keeps everything nice and neat. And I just love how this is turning out so far. When you are catching floats, make sure that you are not catching them in the same exact spot, row after row after row. You want to alternate those spots where you are catching so that you don't leave this little ridge that you will actually be able to see on the front side of your work. So if you are catching them after each 3rd stitch and you do that on this row and you do it on the next row and the next row and the next row, you're going to end up really being able to see that. So you want to alternate. So if you do it on the 3rd one with the 1st row, the 2nd one, maybe do it the 2nd or the 4th stitch. So alternate where you are catching those floats, and that way it will look really, really good when you're finished. When it comes to blocking, the question is not if you block, it's how you block. Look at your label, your yarn label, to see how you need to block. If it's wet blocking or steam blocking, sometimes that's a personal choice. Sometimes that depends on what kind of fiber you're using. But it is really important with stranded knitting that you do block your work. You need a blocking mat with steel pins. You do not want any kind of pins that will rust, because all of that water, wetting it, blocking it, will smooth out all those fibers and create a beautiful finished look. Thank you for stopping by the Les Petites Saintes Crochet YouTube channel today. I really appreciate that you spent some time with me today. I hope that you will try stranded knitting if you haven't before and that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you would please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and hit that bell for notifications. That way you'll know every time I upload a new video. I would love to hear from you if you have any comments, if you have any questions. I try to answer each and every one. I love getting to know each and every one of you. And stay tuned because next week I have that really exciting tutorial on how you can design your very own color work charts. It's so much fun. You are going to love it. I've got a few other videos that I think you might enjoy, especially on how to choose colors for stranded knitting, because that is a really essential part of having a very successful project that you will be proud of for years to come.